right, I'll call the Woodman Hills Metropolitan District regular board meeting for Thursday, June 22nd, 2023 to order at 5:33. First item on the agenda will be call to order. Did that. Item 2 will be roll call.
John Martin present.
Elsie Ives present.
Troy Stinson present.
Sherry Ringen present.
And Stacy not present.
Do we need to excuse her?
She
It's
is an
up to you.
excusable function
It's a
by
wedding.
statute.
I just ask him.
Give her excused absence.
I'll motion we excuse Stacy from the meeting.
Second.
Any other discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And director disclosures were submitted to the state, no conflicts that I see.
I found it blank. Oh, we got fixed up.
Oh,
Sorry.
What was wrong?
I'll tell you in a minute.
All right.
Card.
All right, item 4, be approval or disapproval of the agenda. And that will be with, I'll motion we approve the agenda with the change that we add approval of the last meeting's minutes in there that's missing off there. So if we can just move that to item 5, and then we'll bump everything else down 1.
I'll second.
Any other discussion on that? Okay, so, got a motion by me, second by Sherry to approve the agenda with that addition on there. No other discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All, any opposed? No? All right, motion carries. And we approve the agenda. So then item 5 would be approval or disapproval of last month's minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve last month's minutes.
I'll second.
Any further discussion on it? All right, with a motion by Sherry and a second by John, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, item 6, and we are missing a board member tonight, consideration of election of officers. With any nominations or considerations for appointment or nominations for to change officer positions. We do need a secretary.
I'm staying right where I'm at. Welcome, Secretary.
And that goes, it's in the first meeting after we would have done it last meeting. We didn't have everybody here. We were waiting. We got new board members. Any nominations for any of the positions, if we want to change anything up, new president, vice president, if you guys don't like how I'm running it, I'll sit back there. Your choice.
Sign me up.
For which one? This one?
He tries so hard.
Secretary? Okay. Then I will nominate you for secretary.
Second.
Second by John. Any other discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And if there are no other nominations, we'll close the election of officers, keeping the rest of the board remaining the same. Are you guys good over there? Are you good over there?
I printed wrong. I reprinted the May packet instead of the June packet. What I sent you guys digitally is correct. What I printed and brought, some of it is wrong. So the minutes are right, the agenda's right, the executive session packet is right, but the regular stuff, like their reports digitally are right, but what I printed is wrong. I just realized that.
No, I read all their reports already, so.
You're taking money out of my company for that.
What's that? All right. We're on item 7. I stand behind what I said before the meeting.
I deserve it now. I'll take my lumps.
All right. President's welcome and remarks. We haven't had any issues with rules of conduct. Everybody's always pleasant and make this more of a guided discussion than a directed meeting. But welcome, we do have a resident in the crowd and all of our directors are here. I'll start by saying welcome to the community watching at home, folks out here, and thank you guys for what you've done over the last month and what you continue to do for the district. We always strive to be better. It's always good to see community members show up with any other concerns, something we may be missing, and bring that to our attention so that we can get it fixed, or at least get it out there to where we can at least get a price to try to get it fixed. Other than that, I mean, with the storms and stuff, I'm sure we're gonna talk about issues with water and everything else going on around I know that's all I heard at work this morning was flooding of basements, so, I know it's a big issue out here. Other than that, would somebody like to, welcome, somebody like to lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And with that, I almost forgot, we do have Mr. John Martin back on the board as an appointed member. As we had one of the elected or one of the running members of the community that had to step out for their own personal reasons. And then we have Kelsey added to the board in this last election. And I'll leave it up to her when she wants to tell everybody about herself.
Well, I'm Kelsey, new to Peyton, just bought my first house here, and I'm excited to kind of get my roots in my community and just learn more about small town government, things like that. So be patient with me as I'm learning.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And you'll have the opportunity for the SDA conference if you haven't attended one. But Keystone here coming up in September will be the next conference. Those that want to attend in person, they also do it by web now. So and I'm like, I think three sessions away from completing last year's conference. All right. Item 8 is public comment regarding current board business not on the agenda. Is there anybody who would like to make public comment? No? All right. Huh?
Flying under the radar.
Okay.
Okay.
With no other public comment, we'll consider for item 9, consider for approval of a resolution concerning banking transactions. Who can talk about it?
Did you already do minutes? Didn't you add them?
Yes, we did.
You were busy over here in your side conversation during the important part of the meeting.
So the banking transaction essentially is amended and restated in order to allow the current sitting board to be the signers on all of our banking accounts. So really it's the addition of Kelsey, the subtraction of Neil. So this one replaces all other previous board authorizations.
Okay.
And that will allow me the process to then get new signature cards for our accounts and get Kelsey's signature added.
Is that resolution in here?
It is.
It was in
Yeah,
the
no, it
original
is.
printed
It's there.
one.
Yeah,
The minutes.
it's right after the minutes.
Okay.
Okay, pretty good.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution concerning banking transactions.
I'll second.
All right, any other discussion on it? I'll just add a quick caveat on that for the public. Generally in the SDA, the president and vice president sign all banking transactions for the district, but our district, we allow the 5 current board members due to everybody has very active roles in the community and full-time jobs. So narrowing down 1 or 2 board members to be able to sign checks, anything over, it's still $1,000, right?
$500, yeah.
2
for
signatures, anything under $500 has to have 1 board signature. So we do the resolution and put everybody on a signature card at our banking institutes so that any board member can stop at the office and sign checks throughout the week and check the invoices. Otherwise, our meetings with how many invoices and checks we sign a month, if we did them like some of the districts and signed them up here in front of the community, we'd be here for 8 hours instead of 4. 2, we only been running 2 hours lately. So with that, all in favor of approving the resolution to continue to allow all 5 board members to sign?
All right.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
This is the digital copy that has all the correct documents, so you guys just want to use that.
You want this?
No, because Blair's office will send you
Will
the
the
electronic.
digital
and then
sign them
just
now?
do it. Everything is digitally signed, and then once it's signed, they send me a copy for our record.
All right. And soon we will be able to digitally sign
Checks.
checks. Item 10, attorney's report.
I knew there was a way you didn't want me to keep me out of the office now.
You said you were still coming in because you didn't want to sign them digitally. You told me that last time you were there.
Yeah, that means I don't have to sign checks though.
Keep the candy dish full.
That's right.
And get better candy.
Some Werthers, get some Werthers.
All right.
We'll have to increase that line item next year.
Right?
What do you got for us, Blair? Anything?
Yeah, I got a few things I can update you on. You have the memo from us in your electronic packet. You can see it there. We had a conversation, as you remember, we closed the line of credit. We had a conversation with County Attorney Lori Seago about some questions she had about that. She wanted to argue that it counted against your debt limit, which you're already at your debt limit. And we said we structured it specifically not to because it's subject to annual appropriation. I went back and forth with her. She said she doesn't care if it's subject to annual appropriation, it's still a quote debt in her mind. So I pointed out to her that the definition of quote debt in the county's model service plan says if it's not subject to annual appropriation, then it's a debt. So she sort of backed off after that. It's a non-issue now, but just an update in case you hear of that. So we're all good on that front. Let's see, we've got the budget amendments. Both of those we're wrapping up. We're waiting on some final numbers, I think, from Carter to close those out. We've got 3 inclusions on there we've been working on. You may remember at the last board meeting we did 2 inclusions for properties on Owl Place. And we're waiting on dedication of water rights, I think is the final issue. council, Wayne Foreman's looking at that for us. This amended and restated service plan, we're still working through that, on a draft of that, we've got it set up with the county to submit that. It's probably 5 or 6 months to process through the county for approval, but we're working on that. And then, I think we'll hear in executive session a little bit more about the IGA with Cherokee, but that's something Carter and I have been working on. It's kind of the highlights for the last month. If there are any questions, happy to answer them.
All my questions will be pertaining to the items.
I think the other thing is the rules and regs and the bylaws. We've got a draft, and that'll come back around next month for adoption. So if there are any comments from the board or from staff, you let us know in the next month or so we can get that final version to you next month.
We'll talk more about that one I sent out.
I saw that, yeah.
Some other, Dr. Carter, some other options, things I'll just work around.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right.
Anything else you can think of? I should.
Anybody else have any questions for the attorney?
No, that was it.
Okay.
Those are the big ticket items.
All right, with no other questions, we'll move on to item 11, which is approval or disapproval of financials.
Those are in your printed packets.
50%.
In color, too. I can see it.
All right. So for the month end of May, starting with Parks and Rec, actual income on the month was $266,536 on a budget of $254,997. Total expenses came in at $137,139 on a budget of $242,024. So net ordinary income before depreciation was $129,396 on a budget of $12,973. So year to date, running quite the surplus. $519,027 on a budget of $17,377 for the year. So already saved more through the first 5 months of the year than was budgeted for the entire year for Parks and Rec. So good job to Marcus and his team for keeping those expenses low and keeping pace with revenues. Marcus, is there anything you want to add on finances?
No,
About May?
yeah, a lot of the big discrepancies you'll see is from staffing issues, from catching up on maintenance, seeing turnover, unfilled positions that now, we are now filled on, so some of those will start to, but that's a natural flow. We anticipate that year in, year out, that you're gonna see some of that. We'd like to say that we're gonna have a ton of retention on there, but that is a kind of a transient position. So, and then, some different efficiencies that we've identified, I'm trying to make sure we're staffing appropriately. We will start eating into that a little bit, because we'll start doing more custodial work to catch on some cleanliness issues, but areas we've saved on, the weather with the pool has been crazy, so we've seen lifeguard hours dwindle and stuff like that, so. Hopefully it cooks up and we'll start seeing those get back.
Thanks, Marcus. Any questions about revenues or expenses for Parks and Rec for the month of May?
That looked really good.
If you notice, the recreational program revenues, right, that's the one area that Marcus and his team can really control based off programming. Almost $28,000 of actual revenue versus a budget for this month of 17.9. So very healthy there.
How did it, financial wise, how did the last concert pan out?
We
Beer
budget
garden
to take a
stuff?
loss on that. All of our concerts we do, especially the first one and then the last one, the Fall Fest, because that's when we do the face painters and things like that. So we budget to spend about 5,000 on that. I think we came in at about 4, so we didn't quite spend what we thought we would on it.
Okay. I was just curious, I know it was a holiday weekend and stuff, so.
Yeah, and
A
we'll
lot
look
of
at,
people were gone, it was first
Yeah.
holiday weekend of the summer, everybody.
That's what we're
district was
thinking.
empty.
Either we push it up a week or push it back a week next year to try to capture more of the community on that.
How was your turnout? I mean, I was there early, I didn't,
It started to get real good until the lightning hit, and then that drove everybody away real quick. So about 6 o'clock, it just opened up, and that was when we were starting to hit our peak of people, so. Well, it was really nice, I really enjoyed the VFW, or the American Legion came in and did the flag raising, and that went off, and the weather was holding up for that, so that was actually a really good ceremony. And we'll have that, we've already got on their schedule that again next year, on all 3 of those weekends, depending on what we decide to do.
Alright, there's no other questions, I'm gonna move on to water. So for the month of May, the water enterprise total income actuals came in at $707,952. On a budget of $483,271. So year to date, 116, almost 117% of budget, so over the expected income so far for the year. Total expenses for the month of May, actuals came in at $166,174 on a budget of $239,658. Year to date, only 77% to total expense budget, so again, same kind of trend, keeping revenues high, expenses low. So net income for the month of May was $541,778 on a budget of $243,612. So year-to-date net income is 171%.
What's led into such a big,
So we're still seeing a lot of tap fees honestly coming through. As you know, I've talked about with you guys, I assumed based off of projections that we got from Challenger, it would be about roughly 83 homes. But they never can tell you when those 83 homes are gonna come in, right? It's not necessarily evenly distributed across the year, but they can't tell me when. So I evenly distribute that across the 12 months, but we're seeing that it's mostly front-loaded. So I would expect to see those tap fees kind of dwindle towards the end of the year, which is fine as long as we receive all the income that we expect from that. So with tap fees, obviously comes the water acquisition fees from Challenger as well. So those two things are really driving the overall financial performance. But even the things that we truly expect, like your residential water use, you know, still worked a lot to try to get that right. What's the amount budgeted versus actual? So for the month of May, you know, you're starting to see a lot of that water use come in, and we were almost 92% of budget for the actual on that. So I like where we're headed in terms of being able to predict and forecast what the consumer behavior is gonna be. It's just gonna be one of those things we continue to refine every budget cycle, and we'll get that dialed in again next year. Same for construction, right? You're still seeing a lot of construction going on. Obviously, we all know about Falcon Marketplace. So there's a lot of construction water use is still being used. I mean, it was almost $7,900 in the month of May of construction water use. So, I mean, that's 236% of the budget for that month. Year to date, it's 239%. So we've earned $40,000 in construction water use on a year-to-date budget of 16.6. So we've actually earned our full, almost annual budget forecast and what construction water use in the first 5 months of the year. So really, June on is just gonna be gravy on top of our expected revenue.
Good, we don't have to raise rates next year.
That would be ideal.
I like it.
I will point out, all three enterprises have the same line item that is over budget, and that is legal fees. As you can imagine, we have a lot of legal things going on, whether it's water acquisition or negotiations, IGAs, contracts, all the work that Blair and his team are doing. So we're doing our best to try to close things out, but as you guys know, every time we close, it seems like we close one thing, 2 more things pop up. So we don't want to continue to overspend, but it's just a fact of where we're at right now.
And I think we're okay right now. Hopefully this year we'll have the overage, next year we won't, hopefully.
Right.
Fingers crossed, depending on how far some of these projects go on. I mean, the service plan that's gonna be another year of
Yep.
shenanigans with the county.
Right.
And we don't know how long the other things are gonna take either, so.
Right.
I mean, we probably should increase that line item a little bit. I know we decreased it from last
We
year.
did, but we also, I couldn't have forecasted all of the things that have happened so far in the first 5 months of this year. So I do fully expect that probably Q4, I'll put in a budget amendment to increase that line item. Just for water alone, year to date, we're 75,000 spent on a year-to-date budget of 41 with an annual budget of 100,000. So we only have a $25,000 cushion before we hit that annual allotment, just on the water side. So we're definitely gonna have to put in a budget amendment to increase that line. Won't mean that we're having to increase fees to pay for it. We'll just eat into some of our net income in order to pay for the additional legal expenses.
The other part of that in this budget, since we're in, and I know we haven't started budgeting, you're gonna use a lot of this numbers from this year for next year, is now that we're seeing this large generation of stormwater, and I believe you have it in your office on the wall, this county stormwater runs through the district, JD, I think it's on, you got the district map on your wall that's got all the stormwater easements marked on it, I believe.
Yes, but that's not that updated now.
We probably need to look at that, because some of that, we've been doing maintenance for the county, and we're taking the hit in the budget, but we need to look at how do we defer some of that to the county, and what needs to stay with us. If you look at some of those drainage runs as you drive around the district, now they're silted in, the rock's not exposed anymore, so the water runoff is not as quick as it needs to be, which is resulting in all the flooded basements out here right now and all the standing water that we're seeing everywhere. Instead of it being able to get down to the gallery where it's supposed to go, we did a great job on that huge piece out there over the years, and now we're kind of all the offshoots. And I know the last response we got, and this was before you were here, from the county, was a lot of those drainage runs are run through people's property now, and they didn't want to pay for them. I sat here in a following 11 meeting one night, and they talked about how those neighbors went to the county. County said, no, that's on your property, you're responsible for it. Well, not if it's a county if it's part of that county stormwater plan, that needs to be paid for by somebody else other than our residents in our district. So probably something we need to look at and get ahead of as we see, and this is a 10-year event here that we got going on. I mean, it hasn't rained like this since 13. That's the last time we had all the basements flood and all the extra water out here and stuff. So, I mean, I drove by Rama the other day and it's completely full. But just for budgeting purposes, we need to figure that out, because that's a problem that's gonna continue if we don't get a handle on it, just like all the rest of the maintenance, the county maintenance plan. It probably needs to be added into that county maintenance plan for all those easements and stormwater runs.
So we've already started to have those internal discussions
Okay.
about how should we best address stormwater? Not only in the sense of operations and maintenance, but also how do you fund it appropriately? So it's in the infancy stages of trying to figure out, but we think we have a tentative plan of how we wanna do it, but we need some time to kind of flush it out before we bring it amongst the board.
I just want to put it out there, because we've been, for 5 years, we've been slowly picking away, upgrading the infrastructure, fixing all the stuff that needs to be fixed, and trying to maneuver the finances to make everything work. And I think we're at that point now with the building and all the other things we have coming on, and the taps and money coming in, that we might have the money now to start shifting to be able to take care of the under drain issue and some of the stormwater runoff issue and stuff, to be able to start projecting that out going forward on the budget. But it's gonna need to be figured in here somewhere, and I don't know where that's gonna go. But just looking at the budget numbers, I'm like, we might be able to make it work now financially for the district, to be able to work something out with. It's definitely gonna have to include the county's participation, because those are their runs and it's part of their plan. And I don't think they've changed it since everybody started building uphill from us. So, just a thought while we're talking about, when we started talking about overages in the budget and stuff, that we need to start looking at going forward, now that we're in a better position to where we can attack that.
Agreed.
Continue, sir.
All right. Moving on to wastewater, so for the month end of May, total income was $484,042 on a budget of $425,051. Year-to-date income is 132% of expectation. Total expenses for the month of May was $175,081 on a budget of $216,825. 96% to budget there. The biggest reason for that though is the paintbrush payment settlement that we had to make, so that accounts for well over $1 million of that expectation, so nothing I'm concerned about by any means.
How is that going? Have we gotten a report?
We can talk about it in the executive session. Net ordinary income for month of May for wastewater was $308,960 on a budget of $208,225. So again, the only line item I would point out that we've discussed ad nauseum is legal fees, but we're pretty close. I mean, 112% for the month of May for wastewater, 105% year to date. So it's really, right now, it's that allotment for water that's kind of off. So that budget amendment, it may not be a full spread across all three enterprises. It could just be more lopsided towards water. I just have to see how the rest of Q3 goes. Any questions about wastewater? All right, moving on. So total district for the month end of May, total income was $1,458,531. A budget of $1,163,321. 119% year to date. Expenses for the month of May for the total district was $481,190 on a budget of $698,509. 82% to the year to date for total expenses. So net ordinary income, $977,341 for the month of May, on a budget of $464,811. So healthy profit margins for the first 5 months of the year will really help for offset CapEx projects as we go into next year and in the following subsequent years. as we all know, but as a reminder for the public, we do not hold on to our net income profits. They go back and reinvested into the district. So we have reinvested millions of dollars over the last couple of years to upgrade infrastructure, whether it's water, wastewater, parks and rec, vehicles that are very much needed to help the field technicians complete their tasks, software upgrades for the district so that we can handle not only what we are doing now, but the growth that we're expecting in the future. So there's quite a few projects that are currently being done that are very expensive, that are already paid for in cash. And then we have projects that are coming down the pipeline over the next 5 to 10 years that we are gonna probably have to look at some sort of debt offering in order to pay for, because they're substantial ones. But with good performances like we're having this year, and we did last year, if we continue on those trends, we can offset those public offerings that we have to do for debt and be able to do one of these, portion of it is cash, portion of it is debt offerings, so that we can keep not only our debt down, but also, really at the end of the day, is not increase substantially the rates to our ratepayers.
All right, thank you.
What-
I make a motion, we approve the financials.
A second.
Motion by John, a second by Sherry. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, Marcus, Park and Rec report.
Great. Big thing, we got our concert on Saturday, 4 to 7, Playing with Smoke will be playing, so be a little less toned down version of our opening one, but we will have the food trucks there. We will have vendors there. Finally, 11's partnering with us on this one, so they've been pushing that on social media to get that out and get people in attendance there, so. The beer garden will be out again, we're moving the location. Some of the feedback we heard is that if you're on the side, you really need to hear the band, so we're pulling into the parking lot and we're gonna go in front of the pavilion so that they can enjoy the music too. So hopefully that'll increase participation in that area. And the weather's supposed to be beautiful. So look at it, it's in the mid
Is there wood
70s,
around here?
sunny, and the wind is like 10 miles an hour, so we should be good to go. 4 to 7 has been our terrible time here in the last 3 weeks. It's been awful, so.
Been that way in Colorado for my whole life.
Yeah, it's been, and going into that, some of the things we've done, like the pool, for example, we've had that open, but every afternoon we've been hit with lightning and thunder, so we've had to close early. So to compensate, because we are saving for that, you've seen the savings for those, we are adding an extra hour in the morning to try to increase participation in the pool. And so far, we've been monitoring it this week, and it's been very successful. That 10 to 11 time, we've been getting half a dozen people daily, so it's again, then at night it gets like this, so we lose them, so it's a good thing that we're doing it. Ideally, once we get into July, because we did increase it till 8 instead of 6, so we've increased our outdoor pool hours to encourage families after hours and after work to come and utilize the pool. We've ordered new pool furniture, it's taken a little while to get here, it was on back order a little bit, but it should be coming this week, where then we can replace this little patio and have 4 more tables and chairs and some umbrellas so that people can enjoy dinner time here. And then transitioning, we're getting into the thing where food trucks are wanting to use RCE, so we charge a little fee to hit our parking lot. There's someone there tonight, but when it gets nice in the summer, we'll actually transition to over here so that families can enjoy it over here too. So hopefully that'll start picking up and people can utilize the pool. We've had a lot of good participation. We're kind of at the point right now where we're managing our summer programs, and within the next couple of weeks, believe it or not, we'll start looking at fall and doing our fall rollout and planning for that. So we have people give enough time to register for everything on that and try some different things, but we've had a lot of some camps this year that were new, that were very successful. Our leagues are doing great. Group fitness classes are doing really well. We just
successful. No fights, which is always a great thing when it comes to adult basketball. So, very positive experience. We should see that actually grow next year from the feedback we're hearing, so that is good. Some of the struggles we've had, the small pool at RCEs, we had that go down again. The vendor that came out put a 1.5 horsepower motor on it instead of a 2.5. So it didn't have a flow, it was struggling, and then just burn out. So he had to come in. Luckily, real quickly, within days, they brought us another one and got that up. So small pool and slide are going good, brand new pumps. So we didn't refurbish. Those things have been refurbished several times over, and we're on their very last legs to begin with. So they are good to go on that. So, and the one out here is almost brand new. So this pool's running really well. So we're good at our pools. Maintenance, we got 2 new full-time maintenance guys that are helping out, so we're starting to get it. Even this week, it's made such a difference because we're starting to get to some of those things, and the weather's cooperating. So we're finally getting to the monument cleanup. We started it, the weather's hit, we haven't been able to, we know the irrigation's on, but we haven't had the irrigation on for weeks just because it's been so wet. But now they're starting to clear those beds out, and they'll start planting probably in the next week. They'll start putting flowers in them and remulching, and then the dump truck's in now, so now we can get the rock and the mulch that we need for those areas and really get those looking nice. But they weeded and got them cut down real well now. Moving to Falcon Park, Community Park, we're gonna take that fence down, that old wood fence around there, to clean that up, make that look good, and get some new rock on those rock beds to make them look real nice out there. So, kinda some things that are on our horizon, looking at bringing in possibly some consultant for different areas. We're going down, closing out Balkan Park, so we're looking at bringing in a landscape architect to point us in the right direction, to make sure our drainage is right, that what we're doing out there is gonna be sustainable, to get that park looking back to where it was. And same with our other parks. Horseshoe has become, all this rain, Horseshoe Park has become an issue. The drainage in that park is awful. So we were kind of examining different ways on that, what we can do from all kinds of different things. So we're looking at it, and we know that's a problem. It's been underwater for weeks. The basketball courts had 2 inches of standing water on it for several weeks, and it looks like there's just water coming from that hillside down and just creating havoc on there. It's starting to dry out. Looking at it, it seems like it's always been a problem, because if you look at that pavilion, the bottom 5 inches of that pavilion just rotted out. So it's years of having this cycle. So gotta find a better way to do it, and again, sustainable, so in future years we don't have this. So bringing out that landscape architect to help us out with some of that. Reach out, we're gonna look at possibly doing, with Valerie King, doing another, in the infancy stage of what a strategic plan would look like for Parks and Recreation, so we can start getting our citizens involved on where we should go as a department, what that looks like. And not just years ago, they did a facility study, but we're looking broader than that. We wanna look where we need to go for our parks, trails, open space, and facilities, to make sure we're gonna meet our current needs and also any future needs, what that will look like. So that we're not reacting to things, but we're proactive and know what's coming at us. We do a lot right now of putting out fires, and we're wanna get ahead of that, so. But that's in the infancy of that. We'll start looking at that. Same way drainage has been a week and a half ago. I mean, as scary as it was last night, or it was way worse a week and a half ago. We actually hit the spillway on Tompkins and Safeway Pond on that rain, which is a lot of water. But the positive note on that is they held. They were holding, they were draining. At no point did they clog up, and they weren't not pushing water out on the other end. It was just a lot of water coming down through there. And some things, they're just designed poorly. We saw at Tompkins, you see it on one of the pictures here, you'll see the far right picture there. I don't know if you guys have that. I don't know if it's in there, but you'll see that far right picture. There, it's a cross bridge. There's actually a low section right there, and it just can't push the water. And there's actually a little spillway built into the sidewalk that spills off to the side, so when the water does start to flow, it's designed to do that. Well, then it backs up. There's a neighbor, their fence line's right there. So, but if you look at watching that spillway closely, when that water hit the top of that spillway, their yard was under the water. So
I mean, their house unfortunately was built in the detention box. If you look at that, when it hits that spillway, where that water line is where that detention pond is. So unfortunately, that's where that is. But they all held, and within hours, they started to come down. So they hit that peak, and then they started to come down, and they stayed, but they all held, and they all kept draining, and the maintenance guys we had were cleaning those drains out the best they could, because some of them were deep underwater. But they held, and they didn't go over on the edges. They went over the spillway, but then go into the neighborhoods or on the roads or anything like that. So, yes, we got work to do, and we're gonna, and as Carter mentioned, we're still looking at how to make it better and partner up with different areas as we have to. But the good news is, as we are right now, those things did not fail, and they held. Any questions? Great. All right, so I'll let you
Good
guys
job,
see-
thank you.
You're welcome. I'll let you guys see page one of this, too, since you didn't.
I've read it all.
Okay.
It was in my electronic copy.
Oh, good. Water. Item, we on 13. Water report. Go ahead, JD.
So, I hate to tell you about a fire hydrant, so we have one.
We made it
Hit
one
and
month.
run, unfortunately. And so, we talked to the fire department if we could move or abandon that current location for that fire hydrant. Just because its location, it just seems to be a magnet to being taken out of service and being damaged or destroyed. It was agreed by the fire department to abandon the hydrant's location, so we're gonna be removing the rest of the components in the lateral there, and we'll have it relocated and installed on the interior lot when it's developed, so. So we don't have to worry about that being a hazard, but I don't know if when a business gets there, then who knows what may become the magnet for that area. Don't know. Guess we'll find out. From May 25th to June 2nd, clear up pump station update there. So the glacier has poured the footers and the stem walls, those have been completed. Cement kickers for all the inside piping that would go into the footprint of the interior of the plant to make it necessary to where the rest of the appendages that would be installed there. Those have been completed. Again, with the heavy rains, it does cause construction delays. They have been going through that. Biggest part of that delay is getting good compaction inside the footprint. And the materials that they need to support the cement floor and the rest of the plumbing piping, it has to be dried and it has to be a percentage of water. Just to give a little explanation on that, why it would be a little difficult. And if you don't have direct compaction, you'd be ripping all that out of there. And so it comes with a cost. But because of the nature of what has been taking place recently, they have worked through this. They've installed more pumps to do that, and they just pressed forward, and they to where they are as today instead of as 6/15. The interior plumbing that's inside the building and the rest of the electrical components that will be put in the footprint will be completed. And then they will have it pouring the slab once they make the final grade in there. So that's update for that. Since we're talking about the transfer pump station, the 6th of June, the pump tube failure happened with the impeller. So previously in the other board meetings, when we talk about parts for that pump station, they're obsolete, they're very difficult to find remaining parts that might be available. So there was an impeller that it took off from last failure. It was out of balance. And we found someone there in Grand Junction, it's a company called Imtech. They were able to restore that impeller by putting a coating on there to preserve what was left of the integrity of the metal. And so It was a baked epoxy is what I understood, and I wish I had a picture of that to show you what it looked like from before and after. To make it last a little longer, so I hope it can make it last as long as, until we get our new plant finished built and completed.
So are you using that impeller and a pump somewhere right now?
It's installed in the pump. I
Okay.
have to have 2 pumps.
Well, you had told me how you were going to only use it at certain times.
At certain times. So when we have peak demands, the pump will go into service to meet those demands.
And it's holding up fine, no issues.
So far.
How many hours?
How many hours we have on that pump? I'd say about 48 right now.
Sorry.
How long did they say? Did Intex say?
No guarantee. No guarantee.
They couldn't give us an average on how they usually hold when they were. Alright.
I asked all those questions. Their blanket statement is, well, this will get you by. I says, well, how long? It says, you know, if you get 6 months out of it, fine. And said, okay, then I'm gonna be using that pump very sparingly. All right, the Younger Water update. Now, as part of the due diligence period, the mapping of the well sites and the easements in its first phase was presented to the Younger family, as well as the well site locations, easements, and what that would look like as the titling of the well site locations. So whenever you have a piece of land, you have to get easements, you gotta have some kind of ownership of the land. And so that's all figured into that equation. Easements, that would just be easements that are not access easements, it's just utility easements, all those things have to be spelled out. And so, as the time I was writing this up, I have a 3rd version, so it's not much has changed other than just the access to getting to those wells. Whereas instead of using pipeline that transfers through the property to get to those locations, those well locations can be now at the end of a cul-de-sac from a neighborhood that's surrounding the Younger's property. And so that worked out very well. They seemed like they were very happy with that. The easements are almost finalized. We have maybe within probably the next week, we'd probably see those, hopefully, and have a good rough draft of what everybody's agreeing to or not agreeing to, whatever adjustments they may be. And as part of this due diligence, the Younger family did a tour of our well sites here just to see what a typical well site may look like. We took them to the Guthrie well sites and show them, you know, what their minimum well site would look like, what one would look like with the building on there and some other equipment that would have to be exposed. Show them a diagram of a well house that looked like an old schoolhouse from Woodmore, the previous place I worked, and what you can disguise electrical equipment. And they seem to like something like that because it's kind of to the contour of the area that they live in, that they're very familiar with. So turned out to be pretty good so far. Finally, we got our dump truck. It was on the 8th of this month. It was already in purchase, and we have the safety lights been installed. It's ready to be used. I'm just waiting for see who was gonna do the christening on it.
Well, looks like Marcus is gonna do the christening on it.
Don't scratch it.
What do you have to have for a license to drive that?
That is not a CDL
What is it,
required.
2.5 ton?
So anything under 26,001 pounds or below doesn't require a CDL. Anything above that is a CDL. Or you put a trailer in the back of that vehicle, then it becomes a CDL.
It's an F600 with a
Yeah.
dump body, but it has a trailer hitch, so if need be, if we have to put something behind it, then it would require one of the guys that have a CDL.
It would have to be registered as a DOT tag.
Right.
So
So don't put anything behind it.
We didn't plan on it. It just
came, this truck came available for the one that we did order. It, they still saying, well, it's gonna be in production, it was gonna be production, what are we talking about? 5-6 months
Yeah, it
later,
still hasn't been
still hasn't
produced.
been. And then we got word that when we finally got secured this one and got it purchased and that they have closed production for 2023. So we get to wait till 2024 production. So. And plus we got it under budget too, right?
Yep.
All right. Okay, now we talked about Falcon Highlands there. We mentioned in the last board meeting that we wanted to include them in our conversations in our board meeting. So over there, they had their well 2 pulled out for service due to pump failure. We reviewed the in-house of the video of what the well casing and screens would look like and the conditions, and then we're waiting for additional information from Applied Ingenuity as far as recommendation of what repairs would be recommended for them. And finally, for the developments that have taken place, including Falcon Highlands Metro District, for bent grass residential, they're still getting building permits coming in for the new homes in that area. Bent grass commercial is now have a couple buyers to bring in a couple restaurants / other venues. We're just waiting for those other venues to see what those would be. Falcon Marketplace is still coming along. We've got Chipotle now under construction finally. Freddy's is about so far into about halfway in their construction process. So things are coming along over there pretty nicely. King Supers is going along very well. So we see that everything's falling in place. And for Falcon Highlands, where the old First Bank building is, that will become Sherwin-Williams, and they're going to be starting construction next week on that. Back T samples are good, and we had no groundwater calls currently, and dare I say, we have no fire hydrants currently out of service other than the one we're going to be at its location. That's my report. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Good job, thank you.
Thank you.
Did
Give
we
an
get
estimated
the-
completion, sorry, go ahead.
Did we get the Panda Express bill all figured out?
Yes.
So now we
So
communicate properly?
Caitlin was already working on it when you sent over that email.
Okay.
So it's all been figured out.
They have an estimated completion date on that King Supers?
Supposed to be one.
I thought it was August, but did they bump it back?
This is a full year project.
Yeah, it's a full year project, but
I think you'd be surprised if they got it in by the end of this year.
there's no way they can get it done by August, not.
No.
They got the parking lot issues and, again, with runoff in the water, puddling up and soft materials, getting lamps in its designated areas. They got a ways to go. The inside of the store is just a shell. We got plumbing and electrical that has to come through the floors, just much like anything that require a lot of stuff that you have to do in preparation before you seal the floor off.
Just curious.
Are we ready for Wally?
How much longer can we delay?
Right?
I ain't going there.
Item 14, wastewater report, Wally.
Alright, so the May DMR is complete. We're still running on a backup bar screen. However, we did get the new motor in. It's installed. Thought the electrician would come by today to hook it up, put it through its paces again. But hopefully it'll be there tomorrow, so hopefully by the weekend we'll have the new bar screen up and running. One good thing on this is there was some engineering snafus, so we'll be seeing an email. We'll be getting a credit from the engineers for parts we had to buy. So the motor is covered, some other fabrication's covered, so
Good.
we're almost ready. I don't mention it for months, UE Compression has been our kind of blower supplier, doing the maintenance on it. They went to bat for us, got us a new 125 horse motor into warranty, then they went through a buyout, a bankruptcy. Basically just kind of been getting a runaround, so I give them till mid-July, so when I come back from vacation next month, they haven't swapped it out. We're done with them and moving on to a different company. It's been over a year and a half, that blower's been out of service, so I'm gonna get that thing back online.
Who approved that?
Which part?
Your vacation?
Yeah.
I'm my own man. Alright, still working on the golf course IGA thing, you know, we made some revisions to it, it's back in Meridian's hands.
So they're playing now. We waited, we didn't get any response from them for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
Now they have actually responded and are working with you again?
I don't know. When we push out them, they'll respond, and then they take their time. They're gonna milk it out till the irrigation season's done, but we're not gonna let it go that far, so.
I bet this deal gets done in October. Right, after irrigation season's over, right? Earn all their revenue,
Or tell them they can't have any more water.
or that.
Well, I mean, where are we at with that? Because we had already kind of made a determination that we were only gonna let it go for so long. I mean, how much pushback did we do after the last meeting to get them to come to the table?
It wasn't a lot, they're just kind of nitpicking basically on the maintenance of that infrastructure. Again, nobody can prove who actually paid that infrastructure. They claim we own 50% of it, but there's no documentation to show that anywhere. I don't know if it's something the old developer did, we don't know.
And who's heading the negotiation on that side?
Their legal counsel, we don't hear anything from their GM.
And who's it going to on our side, Blair?
No, it's going through Wayne and Mike.
And what's Wayne's side?
We're good with it, there's just a couple little details, so they really are just kind of sitting on it.
The bulk of the, correct me if I'm wrong, but the bulk of the contract is good.
Yeah.
From a red line perspective, it's like Wally was saying, these nitpicky things that they keep coming back on.
The last one was they want a condition of water quality.
Yeah.
Well, if we have an upset at the plant, I can't guarantee that they're gonna get pristine raw water after the plant.
Isn't it it's non-potable water, right?
And given the nutrients that we supply them for many, many years,
So, I mean, what are they expecting to get out of water quality? It's non-potable water.
I don't know,
It's not required to be tested.
no, not for them. We're gonna start pushing a little harder on it.
Yeah, we're gonna have to, or they're gonna
Cease and desist,
make a
bro.
ton of money off of us.
They better keep doing rain dances. Alright, so I've been working with, Horton and Grandview on the lift station. I signed off on the site application. That should be going, maybe we had a meeting coming up in 2 weeks.
How did their hearing go? Did they have any objections at the hearing?
Hasn't happened yet.
Didn't they just take the sign down out there? I thought they took the sign down. The future site of the,
They had a hearing at
Grandview. They had that big white sign out
Yeah.
there,
Mhm.
and I thought I saw them taking it down last week.
Yeah, they met their time period on that, so
I was curious if there was any objections through the county for the location.
I haven't heard anything. We'll find out here in a couple of weeks when we start going through all the committees, so. But it's ready to go. All materials for solids handling upgrades should be coming here anytime. Still waiting on replacement parts, for Meridian lift station, get the second pump online. Delivery time is coming pretty quick. Plant's operating awesome, really putting downtime for last month. We started filling pond 3 in with clean fill, so a bunch of the dirt from JD's site is transferred, and we're getting a lot of dirt being hauled in from over by King Supers. It's, nowhere enough to fill it in, but it's a start to at least get us going on it. Get some real estate
I
back.
got some in my yard, if you want it.
Yeah,
Get it.
or I can help much.
Unless it's a dump truck full, we don't want it.
It's a full dump truck full, it's about 5.5 ton probably.
Let's see, we're almost done with our DMR QA lab work. Our BOD fridge took a dump on us, so we ordered 2 to have a backup, and they just arrived yesterday. So we should be able to finish that testing up, set it up next week, and be done by July 4th. So we're working on the rules and regulations, still working on SCADA. Talk about this later, but met with the investment group for Waterbury, about doing including the district, it's looking pretty promising. The one thing, it's something that's not gonna pay for itself instantly, but bought a portable flow meter that you can install in the sewer. But everything, so you don't have to make entry, you can do everything up from up above. But it's gonna allow us to monitor different spots in the district, you know, especially now with all the infiltration. And then a year or two now, when that groundwater goes back down, we have a potential issue with the new Superstar car wash, how much water they're using. It's the only thing on that line, we can put that flow meter in and verify how much water they're discharging every day.
Do we have, what about the other car wash? Are we able to monitor the flow there? I thought part of their upgrades over there was they put in that meter for the recycle system. The old car wash.
I don't know.
I mean, I know we've had talks about their reclamation system working or not, but I don't know if we ever had a flow meter put in there.
I know under the old general manager, they had discussions, we were taking him off of an irrigation permit, putting him on a regular water
That never happened.
due to the fact that the recycling system hadn't been working over there.
I mean, we bill him for water, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, but he's not on an irrigation one anymore, right? He's on a regular water.
Nope, I think he's still on regular water. We talked about that, I don't know, 2 years ago. And it was supposed to happen and it never
They
happened.
dug it out, they dug out half the parking lot there to
Yeah.
fix something, and he wasn't, the owner lives in Arizona, he wasn't happy about it, I remember that.
This is Ned.
Yeah,
This
Right.
is what we talked about this morning on
Yeah.
this bill.
right, but they're asking specifically, did we ever install a flow meter?
I don't
We
think it
did.
ever
We
happened.
didn't. This is the first I've ever heard that conversation.
This is from the last,
Yeah, it was supposed to have been changed from because it was on an irrigation permit due to the fact that they were using a recycling water system in there. So the amount of water they were using for us was minimal, and that was a deal from long ago. But we found that their recycling system wasn't working over there, so they were drawing more water than what would be allowed under an irrigation permit. And so we had Jerry contact them.
he never contacted them.
He came in here and briefed us, and
He,
the owner was not happy about changing the permit to,
he came in and briefed us that the owner will not be happy about us changing it, but it never happened. I know it never happened.
I'll look into the billing, but I'm pretty confident that we bill him for actual water being used, not just on the irrigation. But I'll double check that tomorrow with Kalen. But as far as flow meter, none of
because
us-
that was one of the things we talked about with the Star Car Wash, with the Circle K, about having all these car washes popping up and making sure that they run recycling systems so that they are not because they're the biggest drain on our water supply is car washes. I mean, in the city now, they're freaking on, like every 2 blocks, there's a car wash somewhere.
That whole thing happened right before he went away.
So probably something we need to follow up on. I mean, how much water are they using every month over there?
It's a lot.
So it's pretty obvious they're probably, the recycling system's not working over there. And we just got sidestepped in that.
Yeah, we'll check into that.
Because that's a huge drain, and that's the problem we have with, I'm hoping that this new car wash has the system up and we have a way to monitor flow.
We will, when the flow meter comes in.
Well, and it may be something we need to go use at the other car wash to see, one, to make sure our reading's accurate of what we're billing him. I mean, can we meter those places?
Water on the wastewater side, but again, by at least temporarily measuring, we can leave that thing in there for a whole month, see what their discharge is. And then compare that to what they're bringing in, if it's pretty close, yeah, then they're not recycling anything.
I mean, I would really be curious if it actually, if his system's actually working, or if we're getting screwed on that whole deal over there. Because that amount of water is, I mean, how many SFEs is he probably using compared to how many he's supposed to be using?
I think that you guys jump in here, but I think, at least from my perspective, billing wise, Superstar Car Wash is the bigger problem.
Yep.
They are using way more than
They've
was
already
put down.
used what we committed to them.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of where that flow meter's kind of important to, before we go knocking on their door and asking what you're doing.
So we haven't knocked on their door yet.
We have not, we need to verify the numbers.
We definitely need to, I mean, cause that was one of the things that we said with the whole King Supers project, when they said they were bringing in a car wash over there, was, needs to be a recycling system.
And we were told that that's what they have,
Mhm.
but again, my perspective building
There's
wise,
never
it
more than
doesn't
like
look
10
like
cars
it is.
over there, I don't understand how they could use their whole allotment already. It's not that busy over there.
Oh,
I mean, is it just constantly running without anybody using it?
No, it shuts down. I've used it a couple times.
I don't have any problems with the car wash, but I mean, they just gotta be prudent with the water usage, they're just gonna drain our water a lot, is what they're gonna do. Alright,
And the other nice thing with the flow meter is we can monitor our neighbors. Anyway,
Read between the lines.
we're gonna start asking for search warrants. Your guys over here again, we're gonna need to see a warrant.
yeah, so we got 2 interviews coming up for the open wastewater collections position. So our generator, so 4 times since we've had that thing, it's, we've blown each time probably 50, 60 gallons of diesel out. It's building up pressure in the rail system, and, you know, they've been able to figure it out. So I actually had a different company come in this time, because the current maintenance provider did what they could, and so they're not gonna touch it from here on out. I got a different company in, and within 20 minutes, they discovered on the return line, the check valve from the factory was installed backwards. So how we made it this far was beyond us. So guy flipped it around and runs like a champ. So we're outside the warranty period, because it's either 1 year or 2,000 hours. We've only got 240 hours on it, but it's 4 years old. But they put a claim in the Kohler to see if they can recoup some losses for us. Not holding my breath, but at least we're doing something for our
It's
health.
fixed though, right?
Yep.
Money well spent.
Yep. I went to take one vacation last week and everything broke loose. Had a pump at lift station 1 go down. You can tell it must have, something happened and fried, so we're gonna send that in for repair. We had an under drain issue, looks like one of the under drains, it was partially clogged, but there's just so much groundwater that, that's why we don't deal with under drains. The system just overwhelmed and can't drain out quick enough, which is causing another problem, because the cleanout lines are inside the manholes, and each one of the manholes is spewing water out, even though the cap is still on. So we're getting a ton of infiltration at the wastewater plant, plus that line just can't get the water out of the neighborhoods quick enough.
Scuba gear.
But have to.
How are you gonna get into a 4-inch line?
You just gotta get in the manholes, right?
Well, yeah, but. We don't even know where some of these things go, so it's something that's always kind of looming over our head. And then I'll talk about the smart executive, but had an issue with the Upper Black, made some statements on the Autumn Hills plan that Dee can tell you set me into a world of pissed off. Got our engineers pissed off, and we got a rebuttal letter we just put together today, should be sent out tomorrow, but give you an update later.
Okay.
So you're done? Wow. I have a question for all of you. And I'm not gonna bring up the director that I talked to or the specific people that were, yes, that were involved in it, but we have all new vehicles, correct? Everybody's driving a brand new vehicle. How are we ensuring, one, that they're being maintained properly, 2, that they're being inspected properly, and 3, that they're being driven properly?
All 3 is easily answerable.
Yeah. Do you want me to talk about it? What
Yeah.
we're gonna do?
Yeah, so we talked about it.
So the 4 of us met with Ford. They have a telematics division that essentially all of our vehicles, because of how new they are, they transmit a lot of data. So hard braking, hard acceleration, geofencing if you go outside district boundaries, if you're not wearing your seatbelt. I mean, there's a plethora of data points that they can gather. So we went through a presentation to get that information. They also partner with a company called Fleetio. That's a fleet management software that combines with the Ford telematics. So that will help us to see driving patterns, right? Driving behavior, but it also let us to understand things like if someone's going out to a job site, let's say they're gonna be there for 3 hours, and they just leave their vehicle running the whole time, and they don't need to do that, how much gas we're wasting because of that, and what's the cost. So those things are gonna start being tracked, and we will be able to get those reports. So what we've discussed, and we are signing up for that. It's well within our budget parameters to be able to do, and it will give us the opportunity every month when we meet to go over that information, and then we can have conversations with certain individuals based off those driver behaviors and patterns. So that's answered a part of your question. The other question of more physical inspections, we've also had discussions about what does that look like. I don't know, one of you want to talk about?
Even just
that?
having a mileage log and stuff in the
So all of
vehicle.
that's tracked digitally.
You know,
So it'll monitor everything on the vehicle, let you know, transmission fluid needs to be changed, oil changes. It'll alert you when you get to a certain point that needs to go into service.
You also.
But does it say who was driving it when this big dent showed up in the passenger side door?
So that was the part I was gonna
So
say.
in the military, we had like a Form 1800 where when you, and we still have it, where you, even in the police department, you get in the vehicle, you write down, you're assigned the vehicle, you mark down that you inspected it, everything's okay, observe any damage, take a picture, do a quick little freaking memo on it, and get that sent up, with stuff like that, to be able to track
That's
the
similar to
use
what
and,
you were talking about, so you wanna say what you advise, like how you're dealing with your guys?
So, yeah, so like, my guys, you know, there's only teams of 2 that use the vehicles, and so like one of the vehicles, only one person a day drives it, but we have a weekly sheet on who's driving it, you know, it's somewhat like, I don't know if you ever saw the forums we had before, it used to be a weekly check sheet, kinda similar to that, but you go around, check your basic stuff, check maintenance, whatever, but at least when something happens, you know at least who was driving that day, and then once we get this fleet management thing, now as things happen, you can see exactly where they were, where it happened. Some guy decided to run into Taco Bell on the other side of town, he got in an accident.
well, that's what I'm saying, like mileage log, you know, if somebody shows up and they got freaking 6,000 miles on a truck after a weekend, well, where did they go?
Yeah.
So
That's kind of
that's gonna be tracked with geofencing. So what we will do is per vehicle, we will put a digital fence around where that person is allowed to drive that vehicle. Most is gonna be within the district boundary. Some who have the ability to go outside, that'll be a little bit larger. But every time you go outside and come back in, it alerts us and will send us a report that says this vehicle went outside the geofence, how long it was gone, how many miles was driven. So we're gonna have a plethora of information, because just like you guys as the board, we have the same reservations. Like, we spent a lot of money to upgrade these vehicles, and they look good, we wanna keep them that way, because none of us wanna go back to what we had before. So we are on the same page as the board, and we're putting all those processes and procedures and getting the data as well to back up what we are saying is the standard expectation for everybody.
And John brings up a good point, we also need to renew all those letters, if you all have new vehicles, all those letters that we had signed about, you have take-home vehicles, needs to
Okay.
have the current model, make, all that stuff on the vehicle, understanding that you gotta abide by.
So it's standard language, there's nothing in there that says specific vehicle or VIN number, but if that's what you want me to do, I can update those with the specific VIN numbers. if
Just
that's
so
what
we
you
can
want.
track, just so
Yeah.
we can track which vehicle's assigned to who,
That's fine.
as far as going forward, you know, if
Yeah.
somebody shows up with a new Explorer, white Explorer with Woodman Hills on it, and we're like, that looks newer than the one we had, and we realized that Carter wrecked the other one and replaced it on his own dime so he wouldn't get in trouble.
This does look pretty nice compared to mine.
It's just a checks and balance thing,
No, we understand,
you know,
absolutely.
it's to put stuff in place that if one of you leaves, takes employment elsewhere or something and gets replaced, we already have a checks and balance in place to just flows right into the next person. It's a good point, John.
I didn't know I brought that up, but that's okay.
And that's what you were getting at, right?
Yeah.
Did he answer all your questions? I only heard him answer 2 of them.
Probably
That's
answered.
3.
I think they did. I think that new program's a bonus to us. Even if it costs us,
Relatively inexpensive.
yeah, even if it costs us just a little bit of money, it's well worth taking care of the district, the community's property.
Also, we need to track the use of the gators, the new gators, because that was a huge problem before, was that one gator had never been maintenanced.
Yeah, so we did, on our end, we've had it, this will help immensely with a lot of things it's doing, but we, oh man, it's been a while now, identified that our work order system wasn't adequate, so we subscribed to a program called Maintenance X, and it has an asset management tool, so from our gators to our mowers, weed eaters, all that's in there, and then Will monitors it and puts it in when they need to be maintained and has a maintenance list so we can track the last time they were maintained. And so the gators are on there, actually our vehicles were on there, and then once we get this, we'll transition over to that, but all that was on that maintenance act, so we knew when we had to have oil changes and get the gators updated and things like that.
And everything's going to be uniform throughout all the enterprises, right?
Mhm.
We're not gonna have another one of this, well, he's doing this over there and he's doing this over here. It should all be uniform.
That's why we sat down as a group.
Good.
We're making this decision as a collective whole and what the expectations and standards are for everybody that works for the district.
My guys know if I catch them doing something stupid like that, instant write-up. That form is always a three.
Yep.
Probably keeps it in his hat.
Matter of fact.
All right, thanks, guys. All right, item 15, items unfinished from previous meeting. I don't think we had any of those.
I think so.
Item 16, board follow-up on older items.
I think all the older items are mostly the ongoing negotiations that we'll talk about in executive session.
I think we already nailed all those. We found the non-existent remote control lawnmower.
We did.
Well, we didn't find it.
JD did some good investigating.
Yeah. Sherlock Holmes.
I wasn't interested.
He's on it, man. If it comes down to remote control lawnmowers or fire hydrants, JD is on it. All right, then I will motion that we enter executive session after a 5-minute break for determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations under CRS 24640224E. And those are namely the Waterbury Development, the golf course water agreement, the underwater purchase, the FAWA participation, Cherokee Metro District Water Agreement, Grandview Reserve, Buford property purchase, and wastewater treatment plant compliance.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-minute recess and then we'll be in executive session. All right, we're now in public session.
Yeah, we'll let you in, Daniel.
Item 18, other business.
Okay, okay.
Is there any other business?
Yes.
Oh, on the supervisory committees for the 2 directors or the 2 board members per 1 director, I will remember your name, Kelsey. You got me thinking about votes already, and I'm like, so Kelsey will just step in where Neil was and be over admin and wastewater. So me and Kelsey over wastewater, and I believe it's
Stacy.
Stacy and Kelsey over the problem child.
Good luck.
Any other business?
Now that we have Kelsey on board, can you send out an updated phone list for everybody to us, please?
You want the whole district, including board members? Because I have that.
Yes,
Okay.
I want the directors and the board members.
Okay.
Yeah, we won't contact any of your employees before talking to you anyway, so, and it will be in your presence if we ever had to talk to any of them, not aside from you guys, so.
Or we'll just call you and tell you to talk to them. That is all I have, sir.
All right,
Good to see you,
can I
John.
get a motion for adjournment?
I motion we adjourn.
I'll second.
And a second by Sherry. All in favor?
Aye.
We stand adjourned.